Welcome to the Ben and Lauren Show. I'm Ben, and this is Lauren, and here it is, Saturday night.
Another week.
Another week down.
Everybody's in bed and quiet.
And it's a lot like last week. Windows are open, crickets are chirping.
It's a lot cooler.
It's really cooled off a lot.
That is a welcome relief.
It's been really hot, and my wife's very pregnant.
I was very pregnant with Daniel in summertime, but I do not remember being so hot. It was bad this week.
But the last couple days have cooled down.
There was one day I basically walked around with a cold washcloth around my neck all day trying to stay
That's when I knew something
sane.
had to be done. We can't have my wife walking around with a wet washcloth on her neck.
There's not much to do. I mean, you just wait.
You just wait.
It got cooler.
Yeah, and now we went for a walk before the show, and it was very pleasant.
We ran into another skunk this week. This one was in our backyard.
Not on this walk today, but it was
Was that
Last night?
Wednesday night?
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, we have another skunk story. This time it was in our backyard.
We were just walking along, walking into our house, minding our own business, and all of a sudden something rushed into the bushes and you can see a stripy tail sticking out.
Now we both saw it this time, so.
I guess I was a little more coherent warning Ben about it this time.
So we went in through the front yard, or through the front door.
We turned around and went the other way.
Yeah, we were gonna go through the back, but and we saw him right out the window. We actually just watched
stood
him.
and watched him for a while. He was digging for bugs.
He doesn't look so scary when you're inside, and
It was another little one.
it was a baby.
He was what, maybe about 12 inches long?
Might have been the same one. We don't know.
Or one from the same nest.
Brother. Either way, we're not real happy that there's skunks roaming our neighborhood.
Well, he wasn't in the garbage. He stuck around, dug for bugs for a while, and then left.
Every so often, they make their presence known. You can open up a window and, yep, skunk.
I had a friend growing up who used to call them polecats. So he'd smell skunk and he'd go, polecat. My dad
Polecat.
says that every time he smells skunk. Anyway, so
So that was, I guess that was one highlight. We had,
missing and getting sprayed by a skunk again. That's 2 close calls.
and then the following night, Thursday, that was the infamous lawnmower day.
Well, was it an infamous lawnmower day or a day we got to enjoy a really nice dinner out?
Both.
Okay, both.
It was both. So I'm trying to make a long story short, or maybe a short story long.
Well, you could start with, let's see, where would be a good place to start? You could start with the fact that you told your dad that you would mow the grass before Mom came home, and Mom was coming home Thursday evening.
So my mom's in Florida, and she was coming home that evening around maybe, 6 o'clock or so?
Airplane was coming in at 4, and they were going to eat dinner and come back.
So sometime around that time.
And Dad spent all day making sure everything was nice and neat and tidy and ready for Mom to come home.
Yeah, and there were some computer problems, so I went over next door and I was trying to fix the email problems. And my dad reminded me, Ben, did you want to get the lawn mowed? Yes, I want to get the lawn mowed so it looks nice when my mom comes home. But not only do I want to get it done before Mom gets home, I got to get it done before dinner and before we had a scheduled outing, Lauren and I, that evening. So I was under a bit of a time crunch. So I finally get out the door and get ready to mow the lawn. I get myself all situated, and I grab the little starter,
You go to pull the string.
pull the string, and it won't move. And the reason it won't move is Mr. Daniel decided to fix my lawnmower for me.
By inserting these.
I found screws, wood screws. They're actually, what are they called?
Deck screws?
Deck screws.
Yeah. He poked them down through the holes in the top where the fan for the engine vents. He'd stuck them down inside there.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'll fix this problem really quickly. I go inside and I find a magnet. Here's my genius idea. So I'm going to use the magnet to kind of pull the nails out because I couldn't get my fingers in there to get them. So I was going to use the magnet. And then the magnet gets stuck inside, attached to the metal. I'm like, oh no. So next thing you know, I get my screwdriver out and I start taking apart the lawnmower. And of course I take the decorative part off, can't reach the screws. you got these bolts you got to take out. I'm like, oh man, how much of this lawnmower do I need to take apart?
And he started off with about 45 minutes to cut the front lawn and take a shower, which it's just barely enough because the two front yards together
They're
are pretty small.
It doesn't take long to do the lawn.
We're gradually losing more and more of our grass as
Right.
the landscaping expands. And
So I start taking apart the lawnmower, and the more I take it apart, the more I realize this is not a small job. I mean, I have to. It's like you take one piece off, then you realize there's more bolts, and you take those bolts off.
you have to find a different socket wrench because none of these layers will use the same
Right.
bolts. They all have to. You have to find a different size socket for each one.
So the minutes are ticking by, and it gets later and later and later.
My advice to him as soon as I saw the screws were inside was I said, Ben, you can't cut the grass tonight.
I basically said, listen, I'm going to get the lawn mowed because I'm just going to get these silly screws out, start up the lawnmower, and get it all taken care of. So I keep trucking along, and I start taking apart more and more of the lawnmower and more of the lawnmower. Finally,
And I'm inside going,
it's getting later.
We don't have time for a project like this.
Yeah, it's just getting later and later. But I pull apart the whole lawnmower, I open the whole thing up, and I get the screws out. And I'm thinking, all right, I got this thing taken care of. And I go to put it back together, and it doesn't fit right. You know that feeling when you take something apart, and then you try to put it back together, and it just doesn't go back together the way you expect it to, or the way it ought to, the way it was before you took it apart?
Almost every time something gets taken apart, that's usually what happens.
So I go, taking it apart wasn't the problem, it was putting it back together. So
Destruction is never the hard part.
Yeah, so I start screwing it back in and putting the bolts back in, and there's 3 bolts, and I put 1 in, I put 2 in, the third one's missing.
We didn't learn our lesson. I should have had Daniel inside with me. But Daniel was outside with Daddy, and we think he may have made off with one of the bolts trying to help.
So Daniel, again, wanted to help.
But the problem is that I would have had him with me, except I was in the middle of making dinner, and I looked out the window, and Daniel, again, you'd think we'd have learned to tomato steak him in here somewhere, so he couldn't do all this damage. He had a glass of milk that he had while I was making dinner, because he got from his nap and he was hungry.
Was this before or after he took the bolt? Would this be before?
He took the bolt after this incident, but I'm telling why he wasn't with
Oh,
me.
yeah. Mhm.
I should have had him with me so he couldn't bother you while you were in the garage, and I didn't realize he was there with you because I was next door because Daniel took his glass of milk outside, and I looked over in time to see it pour it in Nana and Papa's little fountain.
A milk fountain.
Great. So I wasn't sure that's what I had seen. I thought maybe he might have drunk all his milk and he was just playing in the water.
No.
So I sent Abigail next door to check. No, he poured the whole cup
Poured
of
the milk into the fountain.
in the fountain. So now I know Dad had spent all day washing everything and cleaning everything. I can't leave the fountain with
No.
milk in it. So I was next door while Ben's doing this. I've got dinner going, and I'm trying to wash out the fountain, and I couldn't get
And
the
my
fountain to go
wonderful
back
wife
together again.
was reminding me, as gently as possible, Ben, you don't have time to mow the lawn. I said, I'm going to get this lawn mowed. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done, and it's going to be fine. So I'm missing a bolt, and I say, oh
Right.
well. I've got 3 out of 4 of the bolts. No, it was 2 out of the 3 bolts in there. I'm like, okay, that's sufficient. So I put the whole thing back together, kind of squeeze it back together, and I pull the string, and it starts up. And I'm all excited. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get this lawn mowed. So I get about halfway through one of the lawns, and I start seeing black smoke coming out of it. I'm like, oh no. And then I start seeing black stuff spurting out of the side and spurting up at me and spurting up in the inside of the whole thing.
Oil explosion.
Basically, it was an oil explosion. Like, oh, I must not have put this thing back together right. How did I possibly not put this thing back together right?
Because you were in a hurry, you were frustrated, and you were trying to get it done. That's why I was hoping you weren't going to cut the grass, because whenever that happens, at least I've learned from prior experience with myself and other people, something does not go right when you try to put it back together under those circumstances.
So I go inside the house looking for, I forget what I was looking for. Oh, I know what it was.
Paper towels. You wanted to clean
I
up
come
the
in
oil.
looking for paper towels, trying to clean up the oil because I see this black oil all over the place. I didn't realize it was all over me. And Lauren, the first thing she says is, Ben, take your shirt off. I go,
He's
oh.
wearing a t-shirt. I knew he did not want to get covered in
I was
oil.
wearing my gold money t-shirt, which I should have known better. You should not wear that mowing the lawn. I just didn't expect black oil to be splurting all over the place. So
He looked like he had freckles.
So at this point, I was at that level of frustration where I was about ready to lose it because I wanted to get the lawn mowed. I just wanted to get the lawn mowed. I had thought I had solved the problem. Now we've got this new problem. And the lawn's half mowed.
Now the lawn's half mowed, and the lawnmower has no oil left in it. It's a good thing you turned it off before it.
Oh yeah, I shut it off.
Seized up. You shut it down right away.
Yes, I did.
So the engine was okay. So
no damage.
okay.
No damage to the engine. But so Lauren hands me a new shirt, and she immediately goes down in the basement and she gets the shirt cleaned up because she knows that once I realize I ruined the shirt, I would be very sad. It didn't quite even dawn on me until you said, Ben, take your shirt off, that it was even had splatters on it.
Well, first I said, Ben, is that a shirt you want to get dirty? And you just had no comprehension. I don't even think you remember me saying that. And then
I was in that mode.
Then I knew that he did not want to get the shirt dirty. I said, here, Ben, I'll give you a new T-shirt. Trade me the one you have. I'm going to go take care of that one.
So this was the moment when Lauren brought me back down to reality.
Well, this is the moment when Laura went from being frustrated myself because why is Ben insisting on cutting the grass after all of this when I said, if both of us are frustrated, this is not going to go well.
No. But I got a new shirt on, and I went out and I inspected the lawnmower to discover what exactly happened. I found exactly what happened.
I sent Abigail to give you a roll of paper towels, and she went in the storage room and came back with a package. Okay, Mom, I found the paper towels. And she brought it up to you.
So she brings out a big package of toilet paper. And I said, I am not going to clean up the oil with toilet paper.
And she's like, okay, Dad.
So I went downstairs to see if
You very rarely snap at anybody.
I have to admit, I snapped at my daughter.
Well, it's a very rare occasion.
She looked quite shocked. So I went down to the basement and I inspected the basement. There was no paper towel down there.
I think I gave you some of the shop rags that we have, and you got the oil cleaned up.
Yeah, I got the oil all cleaned up, and I found where the problem was. Basically, it was not a complicated problem. The dipstick where the oil goes in was not connected properly. And I was about to just put my hand on it and put it in, but I realized, wait, stop. Hot oil.
I'm so thankful you thought of that.
I would have burned my hand bad.
That would have been the crowning blow.
Because I did not want to take the lawnmower apart again. By the way, that's why it didn't fit right, because I wasn't paying attention to where the oil thing was. Anyway, so I had to take the whole thing back apart again. Thankfully, I only had 2 out of 3 bolts to take out.
They still went missing.
Yeah, they're still missing.
Remember, I had to go I hunted around. I helped find one of them.
So I took it apart, reconnected it, put it back together again, and of course I had to find some oil. Thankfully, we found some oil in the shed next door.
Susanna was quite impressed by how fast you ran.
Oh, I ran top speed because I knew time was ticking away.
She comes in, she says, something must be very wrong. Daddy is running very fast to Nana and Papa's house.
I did. I ran like...
I said, Daddy's just in a hurry.
So I brought back the oil, filled it up, put it back together, and pull that string again, and it just started up beautifully. What I had not realized is that the oil was so low and so old that as soon as I changed the oil in that thing...
The lawnmower was happy.
Yeah, the lawnmower was very happy. It ran more smoothly than I've ever seen it run before. But I was looking very closely to see if there'd be any surprises, any black smoke, any splatters, any whatever.
Well, you got the lawn finished, but we had been intending to eat dinner before we left. We were just going to go out kind of for an outing and maybe have dessert.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I fed the kids dinner because I knew there's no way we were going to be able to eat, but Ben and I did not eat.
So the girls, basically all the children ate their dinner while I was mowing the lawn.
Yeah, because I finally got smart and I put Daniel in his seat and put his buckle on so he couldn't go anywhere and do anything else.
We still don't know where that bolt is. We have no idea what he did with it.
We'll find it in something when we go to use it sometime.
I was distracted and my back was turned. That's really what it was.
And I should have had him with me.
And I think Daniel saw me working on the lawnmower and he wanted to help.
I'd hope. Yeah.
So, anyway, I did manage to get the lawn mowed, and I felt pretty good about it. And not only that, I managed to get inside and get a quick shower in before our assistants came in to watch the children.
We have a friend who volunteers to watch the kids and then makes sure that we have her come over to watch the kids.
Yeah.
So that's a very kind thing that she does.
So the miracle of this story is after all the stress and all of the running out of time. I did manage to get the entire lawn done, at least the front. I didn't do the back. And I was able to take a quick shower, and Lauren was able to get ready. And by the time it was time to go, we were ready.
And we ended up eating dinner out, which we don't usually do very often. But we got there and they said, "Oh, it'll be a half hour, 45-minute wait." We're like, "That's fine. Take your time." And we went for a walk around the.
And you know,
mall.
It was a very pleasant evening.
We got to sit outside on a patio on about a 72, 73 degree evening.
It was a perfect evening.
It was very, very nice dinner.
Yeah.
We usually only have dinner out on our anniversary.
It was a very special evening. It really was nice. And that is just a miracle. To go from that level of extreme frustration and stress and have it all just kind of... This is the power of a good wife.
A good wife? You corrected your own attitude. I didn't do that.
I attribute it to my wife. It was right about the time you said, "Ben, do you want to save that shirt?" And you gave me a new shirt to put on. And that coupled with when about the time I got the lawn finished, and about the time I said, "I'm going to take a shower," and I sat in the shower, and I could almost just feel all the stress.
You got what you wanted to get done
just
too.
Relieved, just completely washed off, and I dressed up nice, and I sat down, and
we took one of our butterflies had to be let go. We took it out on the front porch and let it go, and the kids were all done, and the kitchen was clean, and
everything just became relaxed.
Kind of, we pushed everything together,
and you know what it was? The timetable was originally with dinner included. So by not doing dinner, that added about 45 minutes to an hour.
Right. So basically, we reworked the plan, and it worked out.
But that is the miracle. The fact that it went from that high level of stress to a nice, pleasant evening. And I was thinking how easy it would be to let that ruin a day.
Yeah, we could very easily.
Just so easy for a situation like that to ruin a day, but we didn't let it.
And it does take a certain level of self-control or thought to say, look, yes, this isn't exactly what I had planned. Yes, this isn't going the way I want it to go. Cannot let this damage our life or our peace.
No. No, we really can't.
Daniel awake?
Yeah, I think our Daniel's awake.
We moved Daniel to his new bed this week.
Yep.
He often wakes up sometime around midnight, and it's midnight.
So he's probably going to be coming out here any minute now, looking for Mama.
Probably.
And his vocabulary is growing.
Daniel, yeah. He went from having just a handful of words to this week. He has a new handful of words every day.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
So that was kind of the big event that I can think of anyway, was the lawnmower story and the going out that evening.
It was another pretty quiet week. I took the kids out to the park to let more butterflies go.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that was...
Oh yeah, and I did not go.
You were going to go, but you didn't.
Busy.
I think that might have been Wednesday.
That was Wednesday.
Wednesday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon?
One of those 2 days.
Yeah, it might have been Tuesday. Anyway, we went out and we checked. The park that we go to has a kind of a swampy area. And last time we were there, we discovered an elderberry bush. And elderberries are pretty expensive to get dried elderberries to make elderberry syrup. So I was really pleased to find this bush. And I brought leaves and berries home and made sure that it was the correct kind of elderberry before. But when we went back, it had been a couple weeks and there really wasn't much left. But we harvested what we could.
It seemed like a lot.
Well, we found 5 or 6 more bushes once we knew what we were looking for, but they'd pretty much been picked clean by the birds, and so we brought them home, and we stripped them off the plant and left them to dry. But we forgot that right now, it's peak fruit fly season. Everything we bring into the house seems to bring fruit flies, and after a few days, we noticed that there was fruit fly larvae all over the elderberries.
What I noticed was some of the elderberries were moving.
Yeah, that's what I
when you see the little berries start moving.
The berries were moving around on their own. It's like.
And you start poking at them, and all these little worms come out of them. It's like,
well, we lost that batch.
We threw them all away.
Next year, well, the first batch that I brought home, the first week of August, they dried really nicely. We didn't have any worms or any problems on those, but we didn't have the fruit flies coming into the house the same then. So
they were pretty big worms for the size of the berries.
They were fruit flies. I've seen them before.
Have you?
Yeah. So The moral of the story is harvest the beginning week of August and then dry them out right away in the oven so you can't let critters get into them. The pantry moths love the elderberries too.
I wonder if those are pantry moth worms.
I guess they might have been.
They might have been. They'd look about the right size if they got a little bigger.
Those would have been newborn pantry moths if that was what they were. Well, whatever the case, we got bugs in them, so we have to harvest them earlier, dry them in the oven, and put them away right away. So put them in the freezer.
Then you end up cooking the worms that are in there.
Not if you pick them early where they haven't had worms laid, because my first batch did not have any worms in them.
Yeah.
Pick them early, bring them right home, dry them so that they can't get any worms laid on them, and then put them in the freezer so there can't be any worms in them. That should protect them. But we think we found a source for our elderberry syrup for the winter next year.
We know where the elderberries are now.
Now we know where there's
We can
elderberries.
forage for them. We don't buy them on Amazon anymore.
We don't really have a good spot in our yard to grow. They need a swampy area in full sun, and we just don't have the
Yeah.
right conditions to grow an elderberry bush.
But the park does.
Yeah. And nobody else wants them. So.
No. $30 a pound for dried elderberries on Amazon. They are not inexpensive.
Now, a pound of elderberries, to be fair, makes
A lot.
4 or 5 batches of syrup.
Yeah, that is a lot. That would be like
That would
several
be,
bushes
that's
full.
2 years worth of syrup for us, because one batch of syrup makes almost a quart jar of syrup.
You know, even if you got a quarter of a pound or a half a pound, it's
Yeah.
like $15.
And
Not
the
bad
kids
finding in a park somewhere.
Yeah, the kids really enjoy the Ireland to the park. It's funny, my kids really like to play on the park equipment, but they've learned to enjoy actually just poking around in the park. They like to, there's what they call their secret path they like to walk on. And part of this I attribute to watching Papa Pepper's videos.
Yeah.
They've been very helpful to my kids because they really enjoy watching his videos, and one of the things that he's really good at is finding unusual things in very usual circumstances. So my kids go outside, and I watched Abigail this morning poking around, it was yesterday morning, poking around the trees, and she was searching for cicadas, young cicadas, and she came up with 2 of them. And she put them in a little tent and watched them all afternoon until she saw them split their skins and come out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing all kinds of stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
Which they were not doing before they started watching those videos.
So she's fascinated with ants. She's fascinated with
Anything
cicadas.
she can find.
Basically any kind of bug you
Which
can find.
mostly that's the only wildlife in our yard is going to be bugs.
And plants.
We did see a garter snake at the park one time.
We've got a hornet's nest up in our tree.
Yeah, she was telling me all about the hornets. They've got 4 wings, these ones, and they're black and white.
I don't know what kind of hornets they are, but I don't want them mad at us.
We'll wait till winter time. Anyway, I think that our little trip to the park illustrated to me they played on the playground equipment, but they had just as much fun going out searching for elderberries.
Mm-hmm. It's more useful.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased about that because I think that's good.
Mm-hmm. What else we?
What else we write down? That was pretty much all of it. We talked about the weather. We wanted to talk about the Torah portion.
Yeah, we were reading the Torah portion, and one particular line kind of came out, or kind of stuck out to me.
We're in Deuteronomy now, and this is what, Deuteronomy 6? Are we on?
No,
Is it later than that?
it's later than that. So there's a passage in here, and it talks about what the Lord God is going to do for the children of Israel when they go into the land and take the land.
You can remember what chapter and verse it is?
It's verse 22, chapter 7. Verse 22. He says, and this is Moses speaking, but the Lord, your God, will give them, that's the inhabitants of the land, over to you and throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed. And the thing that caught my attention was that word confusion, because we throw that word around a lot, very easily.
In conversation, you'll hear many people will say that they are confused.
Yeah. And what we mean by that is we don't understand.
Yeah, we use it as a term for misunderstanding something or not being able to grasp something right in that moment.
Yeah, can't comprehend what you're trying to explain.
Mm-hmm.
Or you thought something was one way and now you're saying it's another way, now I'm confused. But when you read it in this context, this is confusion to destruction. It's a curse from God.
I think we tend to use confusion, which is a huge word,
It's a heavy
in
word.
place of smaller words that would probably describe what's going on better. And we started thinking about my grandma when she had Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's is a good example of permanent confusion to destruction.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen someone with Alzheimer's, they are so confused that they cannot tell you how old they are. They often don't know the names of the people nearest to them. They can't tell you if the house they're in has a front door sometimes.
And the biggest
They just-
difficulty is they don't even know they're confused. They're not going to
Right.
say, I'm confused. They're going to assume that when you say you said that you're lying because they can't remember.
Right, the confusion is great, and it's a very awful thing to witness.
It is.
And so we were thinking confusion is probably one of those words like love or hate.
It's a strong word.
It's a strong word, and God uses it as a curse.
And it's not a word that should probably be taken lightly. You know, we think of it as just a misunderstanding.
Right, I don't understand what you're talking about right in this moment.
Or could you explain this better? Or
Yeah, we use it in place of misunderstanding usually.
yeah.
And to not be able to understand something right in that moment is a little different than confusion, which is where you have a complete inability to grasp what is going on around you.
Now, biblically speaking, confusion is like when, what's a good example? In wartime, when the soldiers start fighting themselves.
Yeah, there was
The story of Gideon.
The story of Gideon. And the enemy troops are so confused by what's going on, they can't figure out which way is up. They start fighting and killing each other because they can't tell who the enemy is.
So confusion that leads to destruction is right there. The story of Gideon.
Also, later we're told that God places people who ignore him or take him lightly. He says he gives them over to a depraved mind to do what ought not to be done. And it's described as people who can't tell the difference between good and evil. They do what is evil thinking it is good, which is another state of confusion.
Yeah, that is confusion. I mean, if you are doing something that is harmful to yourself or harmful to others and thinking that it's good, what is more confusing than that? I mean, the fruit of confusion, so to speak.
We're seeing it around us all the time. In fact, we're being told that there's people who are confusing who they themselves are. They cannot tell who they are in and of themselves. And then
you're not allowed to say that that's confusion, or another word is dysphoria, right?
Yes. Dysphoria is where you cannot figure out what is real.
What is real?
So we
what
are
is
seeing
what is so?
We are seeing a great state of confusion existing in our whole country, and especially among people who really do not want to have anything to do with God. We're seeing the enemies of God being put into a state of confusion, and it's I wouldn't say terrifying, but it's awful to witness.
What's especially difficult is that if you criticize it or point it out, that it is,
what is this?
if you dare say that this is confusion or dysphoria,
And it's destructive.
and that is dangerous and destructive, then you're the one that's now in the wrong, apparently, because you can't criticize this confusion.
We are
can't call
supposed
it
to. We are supposed to
confusion.
join the confusion. We are not supposed to point it out or to try to make it right to the best of our ability. We are supposed to join in and say that the confusion itself is normal and healthy.
And once you normalize confusion, then you have no society anymore. You have no
Right.
civilization anymore.
So God's confusing to destruction, his enemies, is going on. And it's awful to witness because you want to be able, and it's not just in one circumstance. We're not
No.
just talking about people who cannot tell who they themselves are. There's confusion going on right now in our society in all kinds of different levels. And you want to be able to help. And you want to be able to say, look, this is not that hard. But the people that we're looking at are so deep into a state of real confusion that they do not, like with an Alzheimer's patient, they don't know they're confused.
Right.
They think what they're experiencing is normal, and the destruction that's coming from it, they have no idea. why these things are happening to them, and they actually blame people who want to help them for causing this destruction.
And I think part of it is the do as thou wilt mentality.
Well, I think that's what it means when you deny God and you walk away from him. He gives you over to a depraved or a confused mind.
Yeah.
He says, well, I will not give you clarity then. I will not rescue you from this. You are given over to this depraved mind.
But can a person like that be rescued?
Of course. But a person has to want to be rescued. A person has to come to some sense of, wait a minute, something is wrong.
Right.
I need help.
They have to admit that, just in their own minds, come to grips with the idea that there is a confusion here that can be sorted out.
And this is the case with people with their marriages.
Right.
It's the case with raising children. Right now, parents are terribly confused as to how do you go about raising children?
Yeah.
People cannot tell because they've been told so many things that don't make any sense when it comes to how to raise a child to be an upstanding person of character who can handle things that are brought to them as their responsibility. People don't know how to do it.
We're not necessarily claiming we know how to do it perfectly either.
Not at all. It's just that we're watching a widespread breakdown of people understanding how to do the simplest things in their life. Even, maybe simple isn't the right word, the most basic and most important things in life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To take on the responsibility that they were given when they were born by being whatever they were born, a man or a woman.
Now, I know that one of the attributes it talks about in the New Testament is being of a sound mind.
That is so important.
That it's important to be of a sound mind. And we kind of joke around saying, well, sane. Everyone has to be sane. But these days, there's a level of insanity that is becoming socially acceptable.
And to hold ourselves above or away from the insanity becomes difficult because the pressure to join in is incredibly intense.
Or be accepting of.
Or be accepting of and say, well, it's working for them.
What's good for them is good for them, not good for me, but
right.
It's all relative.
It's very, very difficult to hold to a firm anchor and say, no, this is bad. This is confused. This is saying something is good that's bad, and what is bad is good. And we can't allow ourselves, our own mental calculator cannot get corrupted. You can't have a calculator that says 2 + 2 is 5. If you do that, nothing is going to work properly.
Right. Once your calculator is misconfigured like that, then you're not going to be able to build on it at all.
Then the state of confusion is complete because...
Wait, that doesn't make any sense. How is it that...
No answer will be correct.
How is it that 2 + 3 is 6, according to my calculator, but 3 + 3 is also 6?
And I know that when I count 2 + 3, I'm not coming up with 6.
I mean, that's really what confusion is like.
Yes.
It's like, I know it's so because that's what I think in my mind, but that can't possibly be so because here's the evidence. But my mind doesn't think that the evidence is right, so I throw it out. And everything gets all confused.
Confusion is a curse.
It is a curse. It's a curse that leads to destruction.
And we are seeing it right now.
So if I don't understand what somebody is saying, I will resist the temptation to just simply say, I'm confused. Can you explain this for me? It's like, well, no. I don't understand. It's because, and I know it's just semantics, right? People say it's just semantics.
It's a little bit of a splitting of hairs, but yet as we consider the idea of confusion.
But words mean things.
Confusion is a horrible, awful, destructive thing.
Yeah. So, saying that you don't understand is different than saying you're confused.
So it's something that we're going to have to work on our vocabulary a little bit.
And maybe, for a lot of people, it probably is just semantics. It's like, well...
They're just using it as a...
People know what I mean when I say I'm confused.
It's like when someone says, I love pizza. We know they don't really love...
Why don't you marry pizza?
They know they don't really love pizza. They're just using the word, and you're not going to climb all over somebody for...
No.
You really should use that word properly. You know, that's not... You don't want to do that to people.
The whole point of this is that it's a word that we use casually that the Bible uses very heavily. We use it lightly.
Yes, and as we've thought over what it means to be confused, that's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, it is. It is.
We need a sound mind. We need an unconfused mind, a mind that is at peace.
Well, that's basically, I went from, I wouldn't say a confused mind, but a very frazzled mind. A mind that was under a lot of stress and was not 100% rational. I wasn't. Because if I were 100% rational, I would have noticed when I was putting the lawnmower back together that the oil line
The
was
oil
not
cap
connected.
wasn't. Yeah.
I would have noticed that. But I was in a hurry, and I don't think I was completely of a sound mind. But you know what happened? Once I gathered everything together and got the situation back under control with the help of my wife, I became of a sound mind and of a peaceful mind.
Yes, and once you are of a sound mind, you can be at peace.
And I was surprised how much at peace I was after I took a shower.
Yeah, you were. You came out of the shower, you were fine.
I was very relaxed, smiling. I was sitting down. I did not feel rushed. I did not feel time crunch.
Yeah.
It was, I call it a miracle.
So the blessing is having a sound mind. The curse is having a confused one.
Correct. And we have more control over that than we think.
We do have a lot of control over not allowing ourselves to be of an unsound mind.
Yeah.
Something to teach our children. Do not let yourself become confused. Do not let yourself become hysterical. Remain of a sound mind.
Even if information's coming at you that does not make sense, you can sort it out. You can sort it out and be of a sound mind.
Yeah.
Even if it seems a bit confusing at first.
So you want to bless people, may you be of sound mind.
These days, the blessing is don't be insane. Be of a sane mind.
Be of a sane mind. Well,
we do our best. Sometimes our children.
Sometimes our children pour milk in the fountain and put screws in the lawnmower. It's tempting to become of an unsound mind.
He literally put a wrench in my plans.
Well,
or as some people say, screwed up my plans.
He really did.
Literally. Anyway, on that note, we will leave of a sound mind and say goodnight. Say goodnight, Lauren.
Good night, Lauren.